And good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. My name is meteorologist Heather Caden. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored by See-Through Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractors Show, as well as Atlas Roofing. Thank you guys, as always, for sponsoring. So let's get right into our weather headlines. We do have a few areas that we're going to be watching for severe weather today. In terms of hail and wind, there is an area up in the northern parts of the Great Lakes, and then another area of wind out west. So we'll talk about that in more detail. And then getting into tomorrow, there's going to be another marginal chance to see some hail and wind. And then at the end of all this, we are going to check in on the tropics as things are actually starting to get a little bit interesting. So we'll check in on that as well. But before that, we do have one event coming up. This is going to be down in Daytona Beach, Florida from July 19th to the 22nd. It's the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Expo. It's their 100th anniversary. So come on down and see us there. More information about this can also be found at www.floridaroof.com. So yesterday we did see a few reports. It wasn't too terribly busy as expected. Some scatter reports here in the southeast as well as into southern Texas, Colorado, up into Idaho. We did see some severe hail though in parts of Minnesota, north of Minneapolis, and near the Canadian border, northern parts of Minnesota. So not too crazy of a day yesterday. So let's get into our current conditions across the lower 48. For the most part, we're pretty quiet across much of the country. Plenty of sunshine in the middle of the U.S. We do have a few disturbances, though, across the southern part of the U.S. We have a cold front down in the southeast. We also have this little disturbance here in the northern plains. We're going to zoom on in here. A few showers ongoing from central Wisconsin into parts of Minnesota, northwestward into northwest Minnesota and into eastern North Dakota. This disturbance we're going to be watching this afternoon and evening for the potential of severe weather. And then just dipping on to the south here, we have a stationary front just chilling here in parts of central and southern Texas and along the Gulf Coast states. So here are current temperatures across the U.S. For the most part, we're pretty comfortable out there. The exceptions are basically down in Florida, where it's 88, in Miami, 90 in Houston, 86 in Dallas, and you can see those even warmer colors out in the desert Southwest. Otherwise, pretty comfortable across the rest of the United States. And in terms of our dew points, pretty comfortable for most of us as well. We're pretty dry for the most part in the central part of the U.S. Some little pockets of moisture, though. Hopefully we can get more moisture to pump up into the northern plain or the northern parts of the Great Lakes region for those storms later, because they don't look that impressive right now. But it is still pretty sticky as we get near the Gulf Coast where that stationary front is sitting. 71 for a dew point in Miami as well as Atlanta, 74 for a dew point in New Orleans, and then 51 for a dew point in Dallas. So you can see where that front is sitting. It's basically south of Dallas and north of New Orleans. So here is a look at our future radar for this afternoon. You guys know the deal. This is just one particular run of this one particular model. So we do have some showers ongoing at this time. And as we get into later on this afternoon, this is at 2 p.m. Central Time, still nothing going on in terms of severe weather. Although there are going to be a few isolated storms trying to develop at this time. But then as we get later on into the evening, this is at 6 p.m. Central Time, you can see more robust activity is expected to form anywhere from Marquette, Michigan, down into the northern parts of Wisconsin, maybe as far west as Minneapolis. I think you guys do have a chance today to see some marginally severe hail going to be right on the western edge of this. And then as we get later on into the evening, you can see this activity will move on to the southeast, become more of a band here, maybe a few cells trying to stay ahead of that line. But then as we get near the midnight hour, you can see they start to really lose their intensity as they reach the Wisconsin-Illinois border. So I think the best chance to see that severe hail is going to be in the middle part of Wisconsin. And then as we get into the overnight hours, you can see it just starts to fizzle out, and then just see some nice rain falling in western and central Michigan. And then we're going to head out west here. This is sponsored by See-Through Group. Thank you guys for sponsoring. This is in Wisconsin. At this time, it's pretty quiet. Within the next few hours, though, we could see a few little storms trying to develop. This is at 3 p.m. Central Time, so 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Then as we get to 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, you can see some more thunderstorm activity is expected to develop. I think it's going to be mostly a wind threat out here in Montana. We just don't have the ingredients needed for hail production, but some gusty winds are possible for any of those storms that do reach severe limits. And then as we get into later on in the evening, those storms are expected to weaken, and we just see some moderate to heavy rain, maybe a run bolt of thunder or two. And then same deal as we get into the overnight hours. That rain will be moving off into parts of North Dakota. Nothing is expected to be as severe, though, as it reaches into that part of the state. So let's check into our hail forecast for today, sponsored by American Contractor Show. We just have this one area here in the northern Great Lakes region, from Marquette down to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to Madison, westward to La Crosse, northward to Eau Claire, maybe as far west as Minneapolis. Up to $half size hail is possible across this region, but like I said a few minutes ago, I think the best chance to see large hail today is going to be in central Wisconsin from Eau Claire down to La Crosse eastward. So up to golf ball size hail is possible here, moderate chances for these areas, and just low chances elsewhere in this region. And then in terms of wind, we do have two areas that we're going to be watching here once I get this thing to move. Here we go. Same area up here in Wisconsin and parts of Minnesota, as well as in the west. We're going to zoom in on the Wisconsin area first. Basically, the same cities are going to see up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The best chances are going to be from Marquette down to Eau Claire to La Crosse, Wisconsin, and then some lower chances as far west as possibly Minneapolis and down to Green Bay to Milwaukee, as I think by the time those storms get to you guys, they should be not as intense as they were in central Wisconsin. So, but you guys still could see a gust or two up to 60 miles per hour if those storms could hold together long enough. And then we have a marginal chance to see up to 60-mile-per-hour gusts here in Wisconsin. We already checked out Wisconsin. This is Montana. Great Falls down to Butte, eastward to Billings, and then maybe as far south as northwestern Wyoming and parts of eastern Idaho. So again, 60-mile-per-hour gusts are possible with any of those storms that do reach severe limits. Now, as we get into tomorrow, this is, again, just one particular run of one particular model. We'll wake up and there'll be some showers going on in parts of North and South Dakota and into western Minnesota. So this is at noon tomorrow Central Time. So we'll have some rain going on. But then as we get into the afternoon hours at 3 p.m. Central Time, we'll start to see a few storms trying to develop here in the Black Hills region. And getting later on into the afternoon, you can see even some stronger storms trying to form here. This is a pretty nasty one near the Canadian-U.S. border in north central North Dakota. As we get later on into the evening, you can see those storms are going to continue to move on to the east. And you can see there's just a few of them. It's going to be, I think, a very isolated threat tomorrow. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of storms, but we shall see if any of those storms hit any populated areas. Then as we get into the overnight hours, they'll start to cross into Minnesota and for the most part weaken And then getting in near daybreak, we should just see a few showers and a rumble of thunder or two. So here is tomorrow's hail forecast, sponsored by Merling Law Group. Again, we're going to keep it pretty low in terms of chances tomorrow. It's not going to be a very widespread event, just a few isolated storms, but we could see up to $half size hail anywhere from Fargo, North Dakota, down at Aberdeen, South Dakota, eastward to maybe as far east as Duluth. If there's going to be any larger hail, I think it's going to possibly be west of any higher populations, but we're going to keep an eye on that and just keep it at up to $half for now and see what happens as we get into tomorrow. And then for wind, I think the area is going to be a little bit larger, basically from the same areas that we talked about for hail down into Aberdeen, southwestward into Rapid City, South Dakota. So up to 60-mile-per-hour gusts are possible with any isolated storms that do develop tomorrow afternoon and into the evening hours. So let's go into our jet stream, sponsored by Atlas. Thank you guys for sponsoring. We do have a trough right now in the northern part of the U.S. There's going to be a little bit of a dip here that we will be keeping an eye on this afternoon and evening for severe weather. Then as we get into tomorrow, this trough will start to move off to the east a little bit. Next trough tries to come on in. You can see a little bit of a wiggle here. So this will be one area that we may be watching tomorrow as we get into tomorrow afternoon, evening, and basically as we get into Thursday, we start to see more of what we call a zonal pattern. So nothing huge, but there could be a chance or two of severe weather once again in the northern plains. Other than that, I think we're just going to really just warm up and stay relatively quiet, except for parts of the northern plains. And then getting into Friday, same deal. Really warm here in the central and southern parts of the U.S. and that little trough here is still sticking around. And then as we get into Saturday, we got to keep an eye on this next trough coming on in to see if that will do anything as we get into the beginning of next week. But besides that, there are just a few little areas that we're going to be watching for severe weather. So this is for Thursday. That little area that we're going to be watching tomorrow will be moving off to the east just a little bit. So on Thursday, we could once again see severe weather from Wisconsin westward to possibly Minneapolis, southward to Des Moines and Omaha. So we'll keep an eye on that for you for Thursday. But besides that, we do have a new tropical system, or I should say a potential tropical system. This is potential tropical cyclone 2. It is not named yet, but it is expected to as we get into the next 24 hours or so. And if it does become named, this will be a Bonnie. And you can see it's going to be crossing into the Caribbean and then making its way into the Gulf of Mexico by Thursday, and then hitting central Nicaragua on Friday, possibly early Saturday, and then getting out into the Pacific as we get into Sunday morning. It could make landfall as a low-end Category 1 hurricane. It's still too far out for that. So at the very least, we will potentially have Bonnie within the next day or so. So make sure you stay tuned here to Hail Trace for any updated information on that. And besides that system, we do have a few other areas that we're going to be watching. We have a low-end chance of this area in the Gulf of Mexico developing into something 30% chance over the next 2 days, as well as the next 5 days for this disturbance to become a new tropical system. And then we also have another one out basically in the Atlantic, and it has an even lower chance within the next 2 days. It's not expected to develop into anything. It's a 0% chance, but within the next 5 days, it does have a 20% chance to develop into a tropical system. So we're only in June, and we're already seeing a good amount of activity. It's kind of a little unusual to see this much activity this early in the season. So like I said, we do have potential cyclone number 2. If it does become named, which it is expected to do so within the next day or less, it will be named Bonnie. And after that, we have Colin and Danielle, and we have all these names here listed by the National Hurricane Center. So there could be a lot of activity going on, at least in the tropics, and we have some areas to watch here in the U.S. for hail and wind, so make sure that you don't miss anything. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. TikTok, we're doing a lot of fun videos, some informative as well, so make sure you follow us there. And if you have any questions, concerns, or if you just want to say hi, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com and check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. And I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday.